All right, I'm calling this week's theme the only two things you need to know about writing. Because let me start off with this. Most people have some weird trauma when it comes to writing, and it comes from school. People have these notions that are so fearful and so distorted based on school. Essentially, school fucked you up. And that's the case with so many people. As funny as it sounds, because we learn the basics of reading and writing from school in most cases, for most people. But there came a time when it comes to actually practicing writing and doing it in a more advanced way, where it became this thing. I'll just say it. It was more about perfect grammar and sounding fancy and sounding formal than actual expression and actual communication. So that's where this comes from. If you talk to your average person, most people that I've talked to, they don't like writing. They don't think they're good writers. They think writing's boring. They think it's really hard, all because of school, because they learned how to write by fixating on I need to have perfect grammar and spelling. So they're locked into this hyper-logical perfectionism mindset when it comes to writing. And then I need to sound fancy. I need to use big words. I need to sound formal. Like it's this very formal presentation. And this really fucks people up. So no wonder why so many adults walk around with all these limiting beliefs around writing and stress around writing. Have you seen people try to write an email? Most people, they stress about it because they think they still have that trauma. That little kid in them is oh, grammar, oh, formal language, oh, I have to use big words, I have to come across smart, it's going to be graded. But good writing only comes down to two things. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But if you look at any great writer, they're not a great writer because they have perfect grammar or perfect spelling ability or because they're the most formal or they're the most academic writer to a T. No, that's not the case. Look at most great writers, fiction, nonfiction, poetry. They're not that. And it's because they embody two things. So I'll just get into this, but I need to reiterate the point. Let go of all the bullshit that school conditioned you with. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need to sound formal and fancy and academic. Okay? Let that go. Take the pressure off of you. Okay? Because good writing is all about two things. Okay? One is engagement. Good writing engages people. Why? Because you need to catch people's attention for them to even start reading, and you need to maintain their attention. This is what engagement is. Engagement, it's really that simple. And think about it this way. People will read 1,000-page novels. No problem, they'll tear through it. Why? Because it's engaging. And people will also struggle with a one-page paper because it's boring, because it's too formal. So just think about it that way. When you follow all the rules that school taught you, perfect grammar, formality, use big words, your writing is going to end up like the one page of writing that people won't even read. People will look at it and be like, that's so boring. For real. And you need to develop your own style. Everyone has their own style. Every great writer has their own style. You don't need to be like anyone else. But when you free yourself of this conditioning from school, that actually creates the space for you to develop your own style. This is what's important, and I'm so passionate about this because I love seeing people own and express their gifts, and writing is a way to own and express your gifts. Even if your gifts are something else, you can still talk about it through writing. You can still share it through writing. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, because just seeing people tune into that and articulate their unique wisdom in their unique way is amazing. But it gets crushed when you try to follow those rules. Perfect grammar, sound and fancy, all that. Okay, so engagement is number one. It needs to be engaging. Catch their attention, keep their attention, okay? And then the second one is it needs to communicate a clear concept or a feeling, okay? Because writing is communication. It's art and communication at the same time. So I say communicate a concept and it could be both at once, a feeling. So for example, if you're writing a blog post on how to build a shed, you're communicating that concept in a clear way so that when someone reads it, they can build a shed as well. This is teaching, this is learning, all that stuff. You're communicating clearly so that people understand or understand it. And then you're also conveying feelings. And some forms of writing might just be a feeling, like a poem. A poem, for example, might convey not so much a clear concept, but it might convey a sense of wonder, for example, or it might convey compassion. So it's clearly communicating that feeling, that state of being. And then there's mixes of this too. If you read a novel, it's going to communicate concepts. There'll be different themes interwoven, different lessons in there. But there will also be feelings you get when you read it. Like it might be suspenseful. It might give you aha moments. You might feel compassion for the characters. That's why we love stories, movies, books, things like that. It's like an emotional ride where we can relate to people and put ourselves in the experience and learn from it. So it's communicating a clear concept and or feeling. So these are the only two things writing needs to be. Writing needs to be engaging, and good writing also needs to communicate a clear concept and or feeling. That's it. If it does those two things, it's good writing. For real. You don't have to have perfect grammar. You don't have to use big fancy words. You don't have to sound like an academic. You don't have to sound like Shakespeare. You just need to engage and clearly communicate. That's it. Okay? And having decent grammar helps you with clear communication and engaging people. Yeah, but it doesn't need to be perfect. You can edit it later. You can spell check it on Microsoft Word or whatever you use, or have an editor find it. You don't need to worry about that stuff. So the main message here is to let go, unlearn all of that conditioning that tells you writing needs to be this way. And I have to pretend to be some kind of fancy academic when I write. Let go of that, because that's only limiting you. It's limiting your ability to send texts. It's limiting your ability to send emails. It's limiting your ability to write your book. Everyone has a book in them. Everyone should write a book, in my opinion. And when you maintain and you hang on, even subconsciously, to this trauma from school and these associations with writing, that it's hard, that it's not fun, that it's formal, that you have to pretend to be someone you're not. When you cling to those, you're blocking yourself. So let go. Tune into the wisdom of your soul and let that come through. All you need to do is engage and communicate a concept or feeling clearly, okay? So here's my pitch, because I help people write books. If you want to write a book, if you feel that calling, let go of the bullshit. You can do it. You really can. And that's what I help people with. I have a free workshop that I created a week ago on how to write your book. It takes you through the ideation and outlining process, and then gets you started with a roadmap to writing your book. I also have a full program called Divine Write. That's everything I've learned by writing 20 plus books for the last 12 years or so, all in one place. I created this holistic framework that's all in one place. And it's not your typical just copy paste writing advice. I have guided meditations in there. I do guided writing sessions, ways to acquaint with the idea of your book. We do this in the workshop too. So I approach it from a deeper perspective than some of you might expect. Because, like I said, the reason why I do this is to help you express the wisdom of your soul. The world needs it. For real. We're at that point of history, of humanity, where we all need to be sharing our highest wisdom and collaborating in exchange by sharing that wisdom. And my intention is to help you do that. So that's why I made this video. That's why I'm doing this live. That's why I have my workshop. That's why I have my Divine Right program. And I'll link to that wherever I can. And that's it for today. Just to summarize one more time, you don't need perfect grammar. You don't need to sound fancy. You don't need to know all the big words. You don't need to sound like Shakespeare or some academic. All you need to do is engage people and clearly communicate concepts and or feelings. That's it. All right? You have it in you. You can do it. Much, much love. All right? Take care.